Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be looking through Lower Karazhan for Season 4 of Shadowlands. This dungeon is definitely one of the harder dungeons, or if the hardest dungeon there is this season. It's a little bit overtuned, I would like to say, but it requires a lot of personal responsibility and you to really work cohesively with each other. So bear with me. This is going to be a bit of a long video because there's a lot to cover here. And again, you can skip to certain parts of the dungeon guide through the description below with all our the points. There'll be timestamps there. So just make sure you click through if you need a specific boss or a specific part of the dungeon that you're looking for. This route is probably the cleanest route you can do. There are different ways to run this and different boss orders you can do, but this route is by far, in my opinion, the cleanest and the most efficient way to skip the really bad trash mobs. So if you have any questions or you want to know you want to ask what's next in the dungeon guide series, please make sure you drop that down in the comment section below. Like the video, let me know how it is and what things I can improve on. But without further ado, we're going to jump straight into the video. We're going to have a look at this VOD. It is going to be for a 2 chest, actually. 15 Lower Karazhan from the first week of Season 4. Now, the issue with doing Lower Karazhan is that there are different boss rotations for Moroes and for the first boss of Lower Karazhan as well, which is the Theater. So there are 3 different types of bosses for the Theater. There's the Beautiful Beast one, there's the Westfall story, and then there's the Wicket one. This week, for NA and OCE, is Westfall's story. So we'll be going through that one. If you want me to explain Beautiful Beast and Wicket as well, please let me know in the comment section below. I can make a separate video just for those 2 specific instances, which will be like a 3-4 minute video, instead of a long, comprehensive guide like this one right now. So let's start off with the video. We're going to start the dungeon. Again, you're going to click... you're going to make sure you've got your buff at the start of the dungeon, which will be, for me, I would pick Haste as a blood DK, because, you know, surviving and getting your Dancing Room Weapon uptime is the most essential thing for a blood DK. Now, over here, you've got one mob. One mob. Usually, you'd want to skip this, and you can do so by hugging the left wall. Unfortunately, there's a little lip here that I end up jumping and moving to the right a little bit too far, so I end up pulling it. You want to, in this route, to skip this mob. There's no point in pulling this mob. It is a singular mob. You never, ever, unless it's an elite mob, you never ever want to pull one mob. It is just not, it's not worth it. It's just not efficient, and it just wastes time. You always want to be pulling with multiple mobs. So I'm going to pull this and just keep pulling it towards the next pack, because there's no point just sitting there and pulling one mob. Now I'm going to grab all these mobs here. This is going to be the first pull. Now, you've got 2 patrons, a philanthropist, and one of the Nathrazemes. So again, the Nathrazemes are going to do the frontal. You need to dodge, otherwise you get the healing reduction, and you got to dodge the fear puddles on the ground. As a DK, you can AMS the vampiric ability, which siphons life from you from the Nathrazeme, so then the Nathrazeme doesn't actually heal, which is very important for blood DKs out there. Make sure you do that. It saves a lot of time. Now, the only thing you need to worry about in this entire area is the coins that come from the philanthropist. Now, it's called pennies from heaven. Now, all you need to do is stun it, or you can just kill it like we just did there. It's just going to drop coins on the ground. It's just a simple dodge mechanic. Dodge the swirls. Pretty standard stuff. Now we're going to pull the next pack. Again, we have a inspiring mob in here. So uppercuts don't really do much. They're just a standard ability like that a tank needs to deal with. Just make sure you use a small defensive for it. I'm pretty sure you can also outrange it to a certain point, so you can try that as well. We're going to, I think, double pull this, or maybe just single pull it. Same things. None of these mobs change all the way up to the first boss. So philanthropist, pennies from heaven, everything else just standard tank damage. Now, as we're pulling this last pack, our healer is going to run past us and start the RP, which is the role play for the first boss. So you have to just talk to the announcer, and then it's going to do maybe like a 45 second to 1 minute RP. You want to start that immediately, because you're just wasting time if you end up killing this mob and then walking down there and just sitting there waiting for the RP to start. So the healer will go down, start the RP, come back, because You know, tanks can pretty much survive on their own right now. This season is a lot more healing intensive rather than tank or DPS intensive. So it's mostly on the healer for a lot of these fights to keep people up, because there is a lot of damage going out, especially in lower Karazhan. A lot of these bosses have a very high healing check of unavoidable damage. So we're going to kill all these mobs, we're going to run down, and we are just going to wait for the first boss to start. Now, like I said before, this boss can be one of 3 bosses. It can be Westfall Story, the Beauty and the Beast, or Beautiful Beast, and Wicket. So this week, it'll be Westfall Story. So you've got two types of bosses here. You've got Tony, and you've also got Moroes. So they're pretty similar in terms of what you need to do, which is kill the ads over the boss. As always, in almost every encounter, ads always over the boss. The reason why is because the ads for Tony, which are the first mobs to spawn in about 5 seconds, are going to apply a dot that needs to be dispelled as a disease. A poison. It needs to be removed. These gang ruffians will most likely hit 1 person each, but sometimes they can double up on 1 person, and if that is the case, they will be taking a lot of ticking damage. You can already see we only just started the fight. Our healer's already pumping the heals. Now, you've got Burning Leg Sweep, and then you've got also this Dashing Flame Gale. So Burning Leg Sweep, very standard ability. You need to just not be in the AoE, otherwise you take a massive amount of damage. And also the Flame Gale is just going to jump to every player and just put a tornado on the ground, as you can see. Very easily avoidable, they don't really move very much. Now, this is the more annoying one, Moroes. So the Tide Speakers are going to keep doing an ability that you need to interrupt, which is Bubble Blast. Now, if the Bubble Blast does go off, it's going to send a bubble on the ground and it's going to just go towards a player. You can't get hit by it, otherwise you're going to take a lot of damage. Now, you've also got the Thunder Ritual, which is exactly the same as how Quaking works. Just don't stack on someone else, otherwise you'll kill them. And then the last ability is going to be these waves, which is called Wash Away. Now, as you can see, all we're going to do is we're going to have waves coming from one side and waves coming from the other side. You're just going to dip in the middle of one of the waves early, and you're just going to follow one of the waves back out. And as long as you're behind the wave that's going back to the other side, you're pretty safe there. The only problem with this is when both of the bosses come up. Now, Tony is going to stop attacking at 50%, and then Moroes is going to come out, and then when Moroes is at 50%, you're going to fight both bosses, but none of the ads. The only problem is, you're going to have to deal with both mechanics from both bosses at the same time. So you've got Thunder Ritual, Wash Away, you've got the Leg Sweep, you've got the Fire Tornadoes. There's a lot going on. Plus, this week being Quaking, it's quite crazy. So this, for this specific scenario, it probably would be better to Lust when both bosses are up, because this is the most crucial and terrifying part of the fight. The only reason why we lusted at the beginning is because I wanted to make sure people weren't doubling up on poisons, so we could actually get rid of it straight away. So you want to just focus on one of them down. If you get both of them down at the same time, it's a bit much. Like, you're just gonna have to deal with a lot more abilities than you would like. Unfortunately, we have 2 of our DPS die here, but it's just the exact same thing. You just keep dodging, keep dodging and being safe with the abilities, and try your best not to get hit or stack on other people with Quaking or the Thunder Ritual. Afterwards, this is where the route kind of changes a bit. Now, usually people would just run through and press W and just clear through whatever they can. Right now, we're trying to avoid all the bad and the more annoying mobs in this dungeon. So we're just going to all go over here and just die. We're just going to walk in, we're just going to die to all the mobs. Like so. And then once we've all died, we're just going to respawn back at the start. And now we're going to go, instead of going right, we're going to go left. Because we're now going to wait for our lust. And while we're waiting for our lust, we're just going to clear as much trash as possible in order to have lust for Moroes. Now, the way we're going to do this is we're going to go to the left, through the door, jump off the balcony on the left-hand side into Moroes' room, and we're going to start clearing everything here. Now, we've got the Arcane Wardens, the Phantom Guests, and then a bunch of other little mobs around here that you need to deal with. Now, Arcane Wardens is the big bad here. This is the main one that you need to look for. This guy is going to do some pretty crazy AoE damage, so you never want to pull more than one here. So you're going to grab the Arcane Warden, a bunch of Phantom Guests, we've got a Nathrezim Infiltrator here, and then we have some ranged Phantom Guests, which are just going to do some Searing Pain attacks. You can interrupt it, grip it in, whatever. Now, you've got the Arcane boy. He's going to put some swirls on the ground, dodge the swirls as per usual, and he's going to put a debuff on 2 players. Make sure you're spreading apart with that and not hitting anyone else. Just move out of the group. Spread apart. If you overlap them, they're going to one-shot someone. If you put it on someone else, it's going to do extra damage that doesn't need to be dealt. So we're just going to keep moving. As soon as an Arcane Warden comes down, we're going to pull the next pack. Same stuff. Very, very basic mechanics. Just spread for the circles, dodge the swirls, interrupt the searing. That's about it when you're over in this area. Now, after we clear all this, we're just going to keep pulling one by one. We're going to keep pulling these Arcane Wardens. Now, once in a while, you're going to get some random pats that come in. Now, one comes from the kitchen area over here, and there's going to be one that's patting around the way towards Attunen as well. Now, as you can see, it's a servant. He's going to come over here. Or a waiter, sorry, my bad. Now, the skeletal waiter has a bit of health, so just bring it with this warden. Now, like I said before, you want to clear this entire room because we're going to do Moroes next, but you want to just make sure that you're doing enough and clearing enough because there's a lot of trash in here and none of it really gives you a lot of percentage, so there's just a lot of AoE going on. So just pull as much as you can and make sure your DPS have their cooldowns to nuke down everything as fast as possible. So we've got the waiter, pretty much just hits the tank a little bit hard, like on a higher key, but since this is only a 15, it's not really going to do much. So our next pull is going to be that warden over there as well. We've got a servant, and then we've got a bunch of other small attendant mobs or guests. So I'm going to grab that servant because that is clearly the Nathrezim. Now over here, we've got a lot of different mobs here. Okay, we've got some attendants, we've got a servant. We've got more attendants, an Arcane boy. So, as you can see, we've got 2 of them casting Shadow Rejuvenation. By the name of it, it's a heal. Make sure you interrupt it. Shadow Bolt, it does a little bit of AoE damage. It does a little bit of targeted damage. It's not that important. Now, you got Shackles as well, which you want to interrupt. And Oath of Fealty. This from the Retainer is the most annoying one. It will take control of someone. Now, as long as you don't kill them, it will run out eventually. But just try not to nuke them down if they do get it. Or, better yet, interrupt Oath of Fealty, if you possibly can. As you can see, it does go off. It goes off on our Hunter. Our Hunter ends up, in the middle of everything, and people just AoE. But, miraculously, the Hunter, even when it's taken control by the enemy, uses Turtle and, survives, but then dies eventually anyway. We're going to continue with the Retainer. We're going to res up on the Hunter. And then we're just going to move over and start pulling these. Because we still have about 3 minutes on Lust here. We're just going to grab a big pack of guests and pull them down the stairs. Because there's a bunch of little pats here. You don't really want to put them up there. It's just safer to be down here. And again, there's nothing really too crazy about this. Like, you've got one of the guests doing a fire frontal, but you can see it's not really doing that much damage. On a higher key, it's going to be a little different. You got another servant here. Just make sure you kick its ability. And I'm just going to keep pulling mobs. None of these packs really do anything too crazy. They're just kind of filler mobs. So there's nothing really you need to watch out for. Again, just you see an interrupt. Again, you got your Shadow Rejuvenation, Oath of Fealty, and the Shadow Blasts. Okay, so now we're at Moroes. This boss, I've seen way too many people do this wrong. So you've got 4 of these mobs around Moroes, the actual boss. Now, the way to do this properly is to CC 3 of them and kill each mob one by one. I see a lot of people only CC 2 and then pull 2. The only problem with pulling 2 is that it's just a much higher risk for a little bit more of a reward. Like, it's a little bit faster, but if you screw something up, you're going to die very quickly. So, this week, you've got Baroness Dorothea, Lord Crispin, Baron Rafe, and also, we've got one more. We've also got Robin Darris, okay? So, those are the 4 available this week. Now, there are another 2 that aren't available this week. The other 2 that aren't here is Catriona and also Kira Berrybuck. Now, the only things that they do is that Kira buffs Moroes, which you can interrupt, and you can also purge it if it ends up going off. And also Catriona, which apparently does a heal to Moroes, but I haven't seen it in any of the PTR footage. I haven't seen it actually cast it, I've just seen it just cast Smite, so I guess it's one of the easier ones to do. But these 4 are all equally very annoying. So what we're going to do here is, as you can see, you've got 2 of these traps on the left you can pick up. There's also another few in the kitchen to the far left you can pick up as well. Or you can just trap it with, you know, Hunter Trap, or you can power with it, Paralysis with a Monk, which is what we have available here. So we have another 3 CCs here. So what I'm going to call them to do is we're going to CC Baroness, Baron Rafe, and Crispin as well. Oh, not Crispin, sorry, and Robin Darris. We're going to pull Crispin first. Now, the thing with Crispin is he does a massive frontal in a very big line. Now, most people just move out of it, or it goes too fast and people get one-shot by it. You can stop this ability. You don't have to deal with it. As a Blood DK, or as a Windwalker Monk, all you have to do is displace Crispin. You can't stun him, and this is exactly why I taunt Crispin instead of death gripping him from the pool. Most DKs will death grip off the pool because they want to bring the mob to them. You save your death grip for the Will Breaker frontal because you can stop the cast from even happening. So what we're going to do is I'm going to bring the mobs in. I'm telling my group, focus the ads. Do not get Moroes to 60%. Once Moroes gets to 60%, he will release all ads, and all ads will be unstunnable. They cannot be CC'd anymore. That's it. Everything will come along. If 2 mobs are up at the same time and they're non-CC'd, they will buff each other and things will get very hectic very quickly. So we're going to start off with, again, Crispin. I'm going to wait for Will Breaker. I'm going to save my death grip. As soon as he starts it, I'm going to grip him. Stops the cast. Easy done. You've dealt with the boss. You've dealt with the mob. That's it. If another one comes in, I can just mass grip it from the boss onto it. It doesn't. So I'm going to wait for my kick. I can't really get in line though, so I'm going to call for a kick. Mana Drain gets it, perfect. So I'm going to bring Dorothea in. Now, as you saw there, I just got stunned. Now, Moroes is going to periodically vanish and then stun a person and apply a dot on them, as you can see here, which is a bleed. This bleed can be removed by Kyrian File. It can be removed by Dwarf Racial. It can be removed by immunities. So, you can use Divine Shields, Bops, Ice Blocks, all that good stuff. This will continuously, it will continuously be applied to every person. So if you get it removed once, it might come back to you again. So this is pretty much just a DPS check at this point, because once everyone has the debuff, the healer's gonna go eventually, and you just need to make sure you have enough DPS to kill all the ads as well as Moroes in a timely fashion. It's also gonna cast an ability called Coat Check, as you can see right now, which is going to make me spin a little bit, or it's going to make someone spin a little bit. Usually it's the tank, and it's going to remove their armor for a period of time. So you just need to start using your defensives a little bit more actively if your armor gets removed. So with Baroness, as we saw, it casts Arcane Blast, not really the most important ability, but Mana Drain is the most important ability you need to interrupt here, because it will target the healer immediately, it will drain all of its mana, and also most likely one-shot it. So the next one we're going to pull is Robin Darris. Robin Darris just does a whirlwind on the ground, very easily dodge. Don't stand in the initial hit because it will kill you. Afterwards, it's only going to do a small amount of ticking damage, so it's okay. This is probably one of the easier ones to deal with. And then you've got Baron Rafe as well, which is going to whirlwind himself. Now this does a lot of damage, and I mean a lot of damage. So you want to be very, very careful here. Just nuke it down, try to be max melee range as much as possible, and just absolutely destroy it. Once that's done, all you have to deal with is Moroes. The rest is pretty easy. Now it's just Now it's just up to you and making sure your healer doesn't and just nuking the boss as fast as possible. And that's that fight there. So Moroes done. Beautiful. We're at 32.9% enemy forces. We did a lot of mobs. As you can see, they don't give a lot of count, like I said before. So you have to do a lot of trash in this dungeon. So as we're walking down, we're going to walk down this way, straight to Attunmen. So we're doing Maiden last. The reason being, we want to make sure that we have Lust for Maidens phase. But if you do this in a sort of way where you have a little bit of time in between each boss, you do have the option to have Lust for every single boss. The only reason why we didn't use Lust for Attunmen is because we did this a bit too quickly. So as you can see, there's a lot going on. Okay, so you've got Journeyman's, which is just going to do a smash. Nothing really too crazy. Just make sure you're using a defensive. You got the Chargers. They're going to do an ability called Charge, which is what they're doing right now, which is a small purple line facing towards a player, most likely the tank. You just got to make sure you're not standing in the charge. It does a lot of damage. That's about it. Okay. Apprentices, nothing really to worry about here. You just want to make sure that you're interrupting their abilities. Actually, no. There's a different mob that you need to interrupt. Sorry. You've got an Atrazine here. Obviously, dodge the frontal and the fears. Everything else you can just nuke down. Now, remember, on Inspiring Week, they are all these mobs are undead. So you can, as a DK, take control of these mobs if you want to do a bigger pull and just have Inspiring be completely nullified. You can also shackle them as a priest. So either works. So you've got the Apprentices, you've got the Journeymans, very simple mobs, nothing really going on here. Now I'm going to move over to the other side here. You want to clear this entire area, by the way, around Attumen. If you pull Attumen and there's mobs in the vicinity, those mobs will come with the boss. So you need to make sure you clear everything around in the stable area. Do not make that mistake. It is not fun. I've seen many people do it. So again, we've got some charges here. Stable hands. These are the ones you need to make sure you 100% interrupt. Now, what I didn't mention before is the charges also have an interrupt that you need to, ability you need to interrupt as well, which we'll see right now. It's called Trampling Stomp. It's going to do a massive AoE. If you let a few of these go off, it's okay. But if you let too many of them go off, it's just going to be too much AoE damage. Along with the stable hand, which is going to try and heal. So it's going to do a healing touch. That needs to be interrupted. Any kind of heal, always get rid of it. You got to watch the charges as well. You see 3 of them just ran right into our monk. Our monk almost died. Luckily, it's only a 15. Just be very careful of it. Be very aware. Don't pull too many of these because there's going to be a bunch of lines going everywhere. There's about 10 different interrupts going along. It can get very out of hand very, very quickly. So just be extra careful around here. Now, all these mobs are pretty much the same leading up to the boss. We're going to pull all these again. Same stuff. Apprentices, healing touches you need to interrupt, stampedes you need to interrupt, and dodging the purple marks on the ground. Frontals from the Nathrezim as well. Fear puddles on the ground. See, things getting a bit hectic. People are kind of, losing their will a little bit. There's things flying everywhere. Now I'm just gonna wait, get a res on our hunter here, and we're gonna go into our next boss, Attunmen the Huntsman. Now, this boss, there's a lot of little nifty tricks you can do here. Now, Midnight is gonna be the first thing you're gonna attack. It's gonna transition from Midnight to Attunmen, Midnight to Attunmen. Every time based, I'm pretty sure, or percentage based. I need to make sure about that. I'm pretty sure it's time based though. Oh no, it must be it must be percentage based. So what's gonna happen is we're gonna start off with the fight. Intangible Presence is the first ability. It's going to put debuffs on everybody, but only one person is gonna be the debuff that you have to dispel. If you dispel the wrong person, it's gonna do a massive AoE burst, and it might kill most people. So what we can see here is it's very easy to tell. You just have to look for the person with the purple spirit lingering over them. Now you'll be able to tell later on. I'll see if I can find a good glimpse of it. But after the Midnight gets to 50%, Attumen will drop. Now as you can see, this is some very, very basic visuals that you need to dodge. So Midnight's just going to keep charging across the area with a fire charge. Attunmen's going to do 2 abilities. He's going to do Mortal Strike, which you can still dodge if you want to, but it's a frontal. So make sure, as a tank, you're facing it away from the melee and the ranged. And then it's also going to do an ability called Shared Suffering. Now, with Shared Suffering, you don't really want your group to share it with you. Because in a higher key, the group's just going to die. They're not as tanky as you are as a tank. What you want to do, specifically as a blood DK, is to AMS it. Now, as any other tank, just use a massive global defensive. Or a massive defensive, sorry. For me, I use an AMS for the first one. I might use an AMZ and a rune tap, or an IBF for the second one, AMZ for the third one. The list goes on. Just make sure you have something. As a DK as well, you have a safety net where you have Purgatory. You can heal yourself up, offer it. Just make sure you're soloing it. You can also dodge it, but it'll just cast it again a few seconds later. Only dodge it if you feel like you don't have the enough defensives to live, but also if the transition is coming soon. If the transition is coming soon, the boss will be interrupted by transitioning back to midnight, so you don't have to worry about dealing with shared suffering. So again, you're dodging the fire ability from midnight. You're making sure that Mortal Strike is facing away from the rest of the group. And now Shared Suffering is going to come out at the same time as one of the fire abilities. So you want to make sure I'm calling to soak it. I will have it myself. I'm AMSing. I'm fine. Didn't even do anything. Perfect. So Mortal Strike again. Now Attunement's going to go back at 70%. I'm going to go back onto Midnight. Now Midnight's going to do Spectral Charge. This is a very simple dodge the horses. Now the horses are going to come through on either side. You have to make sure, and I can't stress this enough, you are not on the sides of the room. If you're on the sides of the room or you're too far out of this circle here, they will spawn next to you and you will die very, very quickly. If you get hit by this, you're most likely dead. So again, it's just weaving in, weaving out, ducking in, ducking out. Make sure you don't get hit by these spectral charges. He'll do it for maybe 15 to 20 seconds and then he'll stop. And then Midnight will continue attacking. It'll be the same thing. Intangible Presence. Let's see if we can actually see who got that. Let's have a quick look so I can show you what exactly Intangible Presence looks like. So I don't know if you saw that right there. It was on the monk for a little bit. So if you see on the monk, there's a small little flicker. You can see the spirit right there. So if you can see that, there's a bit of a flicker there. You can see there's like a bit of a spirit coming out of this, coming out of the monk. That's how you know that the monk's the one that had the debuff that needs to be removed. But you would usually relay this with the healer, or the healer would just see it themselves. So again, we're going to the base mechanics. Nothing's changed. Mortal Strike, Shared Suffering, dodge, 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 all that. Nothing changes throughout the fight until Midnight is by himself and you've killed Attunement. So once you've actually killed Attunement, Midnight will be by himself. This is where Midnight goes into a rage. And we'll just do randomly a Mighty Stomp. Just does a big AoE. That's it. Midnight takes 100% extra damage, so you just nuke it down, and that's the boss right there. Now we're going to leave through the way we came from, back from Moroes, and now we're going to go up to Maiden. So we're going to go up, go around. We've done all this trash already, so we don't have to redo this. I'm just going to walk up these stairs here, going towards Maiden. Now once we get up here, once again there are a bunch of mobs. It's pretty much the same kind of mobs that you saw back in that area downstairs. Now there is an inspired mob here, so I'm just going to take control of it, just to make sure that it doesn't ruin our day with a bunch of interrupts that we miss. Now the only difference here, you've still got the Oath of Fealties, you've still got the Searing Pains. The only difference now is that you have some mobs that are going to be casting an ability called Demoralizing Shout. It will reduce your damage that you deal by 20% each application. There are about 3 of them in here, so you need to make sure that you're interrupting that, otherwise these mobs are going to take forever to kill. And those are the valets, the spectral valets. So Demoralizing Shout, good, make sure it's interrupted. We've got Shadow Rejuvenation, we've got Oath of Fealties, we've got Shackles. There's a bunch of stuff going on. So AoE stuns are beautiful here. Single interrupts are great after the AoE stuns. Just making sure everything is done cohesively, everyone's working together to get this stuff done. The bigger you pull in this dungeon, the more time you're going to save. Don't try and take too many little pulls in here. Make sure when your DPS have their cooldowns up, you're pulling big, you're pulling fast, and just making sure things are dying in a timely fashion. So this valet and this guest, we're going to kill. Now we've got 2 infiltrators here. So we're going to grab both of them. And now here we have, this is a bit of a rough pull. We've got 2 infiltrators, we've got a servant, and double valet. So that's 3 different kicks plus 2 things you have to dodge plus a lot of fear puddles you need to dodge as well. So this is where cooldowns come in. See, our demoralizing shout goes off. All our damage is now down by 20%, which is not ideal, but now we've got frontals we need to dodge, fears that we need to make sure we don't stand in, and we still have this debuff on us. So these mobs probably would have died by now, so this is wasting maybe about 5-10 seconds just because of that debuff. So it's very crucial to make sure you get all these kicks. Kicks save dungeons, by the way. Ladies and gentlemen, please make sure you're using your kick as soon as it's back up. There's no reason to hold it unless you've been told to. Like, I see way too many people kick like 2 or 3 times a dungeon and that's it. Like, kicks save dungeons. Trust me. Okay, so now I'm going to pull all these mobs here. So you've got sentries, don't really do anything. They just start shooting from the side. You've got guardsmen. They do a frontal stun. Make sure you're not facing facing it towards anyone. Otherwise, it's going to not be good for anyone. You've got hostesses and you've got maidens. Now, they're just going to cast random abilities. The most important ability for these ones is Kiss of Death. Now, Kiss of Death is going to put a debuff on you, and it's just going to tick for quite a lot. Also, Heartbreaker, not a nice ability to have. It just does a big bit of damage on you. But the general consensus here is interrupt whatever you can. You know what I mean? There's nothing too crazy like a one-shot mechanic or something from these guys. It's just pretty tank and spank from here. Just interrupt what you can. If something gets missed, especially for a low key, it's okay. But just making sure you're interrupting all you can, because these mobs don't really have a lot of health. They'll die pretty quickly. On a higher key, you'll want to have people assigned to certain mobs. So we're going to clear most of these rooms because there's about 3 or 4 infiltrators in here. Now the whole point of the season is pretty much getting as many buffs from these infiltrators as fast as possible and as soon as possible to make the rest of the dungeon that much easier, because you're going to get permanent stacks for the rest of the dungeon. So you want to try and find routes that grant you that amount of stacks as early as possible. Obviously, don't go out of your way for them, but if they're pretty close by, you want to be getting them. And you also want to look out for a lot of yellow mobs, so neutral mobs, because most of them are Nathrazim infiltrators themselves. And you wanna, if you can, like, pull them into another pack. Try not to do them by themselves, but if you can pull them into another pack and you can make it work, it'll be worth your while towards the end of the dungeon, because things will just be a lot easier, especially when you have Maiden last. Now, Maiden being last is really, really helpful because we have the most amount of stacks we can with the Nathrazim infiltrators, at the same time as that it's a DPS check when it transitions into the shield phase. So this is like the best possible scenario on Maiden. If you do Maiden second, you're not going to have as many stacks, so you're going to be at a disadvantage. And it's just like, why put yourself at a disadvantage, you know? So we're going to keep pulling mobs, same shit. You've got sentries that are shooting, you've got guardsmen that are doing the frontal stun, you've got the hostesses that you need to interrupt, and then you've got the Nathrazim infiltrator that is just doing the frontal that you need to dodge, and the sleeping puddle on the ground. Just reiterating for people that have skipped through the video, so then people know if they did skip and you didn't watch the entire video. Because I know I'm, rambling a little bit, but I'm trying to be as concise as possible with every single thing you need to know about the dungeon. Hence why the name is everything you need to know, Alright, we're going to pull these last 4 mobs, and we're just going to get all this done. Straight to 100%, pretty on the nose with 100%, I think it was like 100.5 maybe, and we're up to the last boss now. We've got last. Here I'm telling my group. So, the way you want to do this is, with Maiden, there's going to be a bunch of abilities you need to deal with. I'll explain it during the fight, but you're most likely going to have 2 phases where you need to burst her down. So the first phase, you want to use all your cooldowns. You don't want to pop your cooldowns at the start. There is no reason to pop your cooldowns at the start. Pop your cooldowns on the first shield break, and then pop Lust on the second shield break, because you won't have your 2 minutes up for it. So you want to make sure you have enough haste in order to burn it down. So, a bunch of abilities here. There's only 3 main abilities. There's Holy Bolt, Holy Shock, Sacred Ground. Alright, and then you got the big ability, which is Mass Repentance. Now, Holy Bolt is an ability you can't interrupt. It's just going to shoot a bolt at someone randomly. That's fine. Nothing you can deal with it. Sacred Ground, it's going to put that swirl on you. Move it away from everyone else. Put it right at the back of the room, right on the edges of the room. Do not bring it anywhere closer, because it's going to expand over time. It's going to take up a massive portion of the room. You don't want it to be making your area smaller than it needs to be. So that was that. If you didn't see that, was Holy Shock. You need to make sure you interrupt it. If not interrupted, it'll put a debuff on the tank, which will increase the damage dealt by Holy abilities by 20%, and that's permanent throughout the entire fight. You can't remove that. To my knowledge, you can't remove that. You might be able to remove it with a bop or something, or like a spell warding. I'm not sure. I don't run with many paladins, so I'm not too sure about that. Again, the same 3 abilities: Holy Bolt, Holy Shock, Sacred Ground. Have a rotation of 2 people to interrupt the Holy Shock, and then Holy Bolt, unavoidable. Make sure you're moving out with Sacred Ground. Now, Mass Repentance is where you need to start prepping your damage. So Mass Repentance is going to go out. You can dip into the Sacred Ground. This is how you're supposed to do it. Dip into the Sacred Ground, get the debuff, which is going to do a lot of damage to you over time, which means this is a healer check. Healer, make sure you're healing people, because people will die very quickly. Trust me. And you will come out and it'll break the stun. If you don't dip into the Sacred Ground, you will get stunned for the foreseeable future. Like, you will just not move, and you'll probably wipe the group. So the other way to deal with this is you can immune it, or you can prevent it with something that can stop magic damage or magic application. So for DK, in this group specifically, DKs can AMS. Shamans can do nothing, so they need to go into the Sacred Ground. Monks, I'm pretty sure, can what's it called again? The magic removal? Diffuse, sorry. Pretty sure monks can diffuse. I'm not 100% sure though, but bear with me. Let me know in the comment section below if they can. But hunters can turtle as well. So we make sure that we have certain people doing certain immunities for both of those phases, because we don't want everyone doing it on the one phase. It's going to be overkilling it. We want more people to immune on the second phase, because we don't have any cooldowns then. So we're all going to dip in here. Make sure we get the debuff. Mass Repentance is going to come out, and we're going to go and nuke down the boss. Now this is where our cooldowns come in. As you can see, the shield's getting wrecked. Interrupt the boss with the Holy Wrath. If the Holy Wrath goes off, everybody dies. So you need to make sure you interrupt that very quickly. This is going to be the same thing that happens throughout the fight. Mass Repentance is going to come out in 7 seconds. I call for a Lust after the first Mass Repentance, because I know with the damage that we have, we can kill the boss before the second Mass Repentance comes off. If you can do that, go for it. If you can't, I highly recommend saving the Lust, going back into the Sacred Ground, using your immunities, and bursting the boss with whatever you've got with Lust for the second shield phase. And that is the dungeon. A very, very simple, standard, +2 lower Karazhan for the first week of Season 4 Shadowlands. Again, if you have any questions, please let me know in the comment section below. And till next time, guys. I enjoyed this guide. This has, again, been highly requested by a lot of people in my Twitch chat. If you want to ask me something in person, please make sure you follow my stream at twitch.tv/triplebs. And yeah, come say hi. I'm more than happy to help you guys out with anything tank related, or anything dungeon or dungeon related as well. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you in a few days with another guide. Most likely it's going to be Upper Karazhan. We'll see what people want. Again, put it in the comment section below. Alright, thank you very much. Peace out.